We're talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells. Schumann, Bell Tower, and Worthen. Fans all over from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Concannons, Carters, and Greeks. All right, everyone out there in Cardinal land, welcome to another live edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast by the fans, for the fans. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes and coaches, and fun off-the-wall debates, or not so fun off-the-wall debates, that you won't hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And as always, whether it's a huge win or whatever we saw yesterday, when you hear that song, you know we're about to be talking Ball State. I am John, your host as always, joined tonight by Colin from Ball State Football Talk and Ball State Hall of Famer, Ball State legend number 3, the one, the only Mr. Willie Snead. Now, everyone out there, if you can hear us and you got any comments, you got any questions about yesterday's game against NIU, please put them in the comments or the chat, wherever you're watching, whether that be on Facebook, whether that be on Instagram, whether that be on Twitter, whether it be on YouTube, put it wherever, and we'll read them all at the end of the show. So 2 quick points before we jump in. Number one, as always, Ball State of the Union is partnering with the Shop Indy. That is www.theshopindy.com. Use that code BSUnion at checkout, and you'll get free shipping on your order. Whatever you order throughout their website, everything Central Indiana sports, they got it. Use code BSUnion, and you will get free shipping. And also, Ball State of the Union is a proud member of the College Huddle. The College Huddle is a group of college football podcasts, specifically football, that fans like us make, and people can consume them all in one spot. So you go to their website, you'll see Ball State of the Union in that group of 5 section listed right there at the top. So be sure to check out the College Huddle if you're a college football fan, which of course you are if you're here listening and watching the show. So we always love working with the College Huddle. They're great, and we appreciate their partnership with us. So, boys, not what any of us wanted to see yesterday. Ball State unfortunately falls at Northern Illinois by a score of 21-7. I don't think the score really even indicates how unclose this game was. I don't think this was a 14-point game. It felt worse than that. And now Northern Illinois is not only going to leave the conference for a bigger payday for whatever they might be doing, but they're also going to be leaving with the Bronze Stalk, which is something that is very difficult to stomach. It's something that I don't think anyone out there is happy about, and it's going to sting for a long time. So we'll kind of run through the stats real quick. Again, it's 21-7 Northern Illinois. Kyle Kelly, 10 of 23, 136 yards, 1 touchdown through the air, and 2 interceptions. Kyle Kelly also led us in rushing, 27 carries. That's a lot of carries for a quarterback, guys. 86 yards. Only 139 rushing yards altogether. Northern Illinois, 305 rushing yards overall as offense. That's going to be tough to beat. If we can't throw the ball, that's just going to be something that's going to be tough to overcome. So, boys, I know you guys are both as upset as I am, as upset as everyone else in Cardinal Nation is. I'll open the floor. Colin, let me hear it.
Truly an upsetting game to watch. I don't even know really where to start, but I think it has to be with the offense. And whatever's going on, home versus away, it's ugly. It's bad right now. When we play away, we're only scoring 7 points per game. And honestly, blame's got to be spread throughout. Like all season, I've been a Kyle Kelly supporter, and I still am. I still believe that we have the resilience to turn this around. But the pass game was not working yesterday. And it was the first time this year that I felt like it was really glaring. Like, because our offensive identity, which is mostly, run, 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 and then occasionally pass, that works when we're up or when we're tied. But like Willie's been harping on all season, when you are coming from behind all the time, that offensive identity isn't going to work. And it just really was not working. And we just had too many turnovers. It was just, that's where I'll start, is on the offense. And we can go to the defense and we can talk about the, 50-something rushes that they had on us. I mean, I also felt like we got outcoached, guys. Like, we knew what their game plan was going in there. They were going to run the ball and they were going to barely pass it. And that's what they did. They completed 6 passes and beat us by 14.
Mm.
That's where I'll start, and then I'll pass the floor, and we can move on from there.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I'm curious to figure out, and maybe Willie will touch on this here in a second, what the difference between this team is on the road versus at home. They're just like completely night and day. They don't look even remotely like the same team when they're playing on the road, which given the schedule that we have, here on out, if we're playing these 2 big money games, we're going to have 7 road games, it seems like forever. So if they can't figure out how to win on the road even once, then this is never going to work. So,
Yeah.
Willie, I'll kick it to you. What are kind of your initial thoughts or takeaways from yesterday before we kind of dive into, more specific stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just more disappointing, um, to kind of see this tape put, that type of performance out there. Um, and I mentioned to this earlier with you guys is that, when we drop 42 points on a team homecoming week, and then the next week we can barely put up 7, that's really alarming. And it's, that has to change, man. Like at some point, it's a pride thing. There was a lot of, hype and motivation going into this game. And, the fact that this team really was set on, we said it last week, that this team was going to run the ball. Like the identity of this team was to run the football. And, they were struggling offensively in their own right, but in this past game yesterday, like they were going to run the football. There was hell or high water. They were going to run the football. And I think it just came down to physicality. And then when the team wants to run the ball like that, it comes down to being more physical than the other team. And I believe, and I think like Northern Illinois came in there with the mindset to dominate the line of scrimmage, to keep the ball away from them, and then make it a game where we have to come back and we have to throw the football. And that's something we struggled with all year, just consistently being able to throw the football. And especially in times where, it calls to throw like you have to throw the football, right? We've been in those situations too many times and we've struggled. And again, like I mentioned to this last week, like when we get the ball right before half, or like when it's right about to go into halftime and we don't make anything out of that, like that's frustrating to see too, because it's just like there is no 2-minute drill, right? There is no sense of urgency in the passing game to get into a rhythm, to help Kyle Kelly get into a rhythm so he feels good, right? If the first time he throws a pass is 20 yards down the field and doesn't throw another one for a couple of plays, it's like that's hard for any quarterback to get into some type of rhythm to feel good throwing the football that day. So, my initial thoughts is just really frustration and disappointment for these guys because, you know, we see the ups and downs all year. Like we see them at their best and then we see them at their worst. And most of the time, their worst is on the road. Uh, you know, UConn is kind of that outlier where they fought to the end and,
Mhm.
that game could have went either way. But still, to not win a road game, it's like not many teams are going to respect Ball State seeing that stat and just knowing if they got to come on the road, like the chances of them winning aren't very good if we're looking at the past couple games. So, I just really frustrated because it's not the team that I thought we were going to see. Like I really thought we were going to see, this team continue to build and kind of build on what they did last week because that was exciting and it was good to see for them to get the best out of Akron. And in my opinion, I think Akron is better than NIU. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think Ball State didn't show up yesterday. And I don't know if it's a routine thing or if it's, how they travel and the schematics and all that. Just I have no idea, but it's alarming and it's frustrating to see that we have not won on the road this year and games that I believe we should win. So that's kind of my initial takeaway, John, is just the frustration part and just seeing this team kind of play like that, knowing that that's not the team that we expect to see each and every weekend.
Yeah, I just can't explain it. I mean, obviously, no matter where Ball State is playing this year, and this is just a fact, they get off to these slow starts no matter what, whether it be home or on the road. And now you're coupling going on the road, which they just, for the most part, like you said, with the exception of maybe the UConn game, they just play bad on the road, and so now you're coupling a slow start with playing bad on the road pretty much all the time, and it's like they're just getting smoked a lot of the times, and it's like they're just. I know there were outliers at the beginning of the year. You're playing Auburn, you're playing Purdue, but it's like it's just kind of building. They're not really getting any better on the road, and unfortunately now for these guys, the reality of it is this was your best chance. On paper, football's not played on paper; it's played on field. But on paper, this was your best chance to get a road win for the rest of the season. So now, even if you take care of business, and your ultimate goal is to make a bowl game, you take care of business at home. I mean, you're going to Miami, you're going to Toledo at the end of the year on the road now. So now, not only you're playing on the road, but you're playing at two of the best places in the MAC, two of the best teams in the MAC. So it's like this is just like feels like a squandered opportunity. And we've had some of these in the past. The Miami game a couple years ago, where whoever won went to the Bahamas Bowl. There's been times like that in recent memory, and it just feels like one of those. It just feels like we're going to look back at the end of the season, and we're going to be sitting there at 5-7, just saying, "Man, if we could have just showed up at that game against Northern Illinois, who was having a down year." There's extra motivation. They're leaving the conference. They're going on to quote unquote bigger and better things, bigger paydays, this, that, and the other. And they walked in and they took that trophy back. And it's just a real kick in the groin for all the fans. I know all the players probably feel, all the coaches, all the alumni. It's just a real kick in the groin, and it just really stinks that they weren't able to figure out a way to get this done yesterday. And hopefully this is not what they're remembered for. Hopefully this team can turn this around and get them where they want. But, as of right now, if this season were to end today, this is when we lost the Bronze Stalk forever, basically. So it stinks to have to put it that way, but that's just the reality right now. So
yeah,
had to get that off my chest.
The positive news, though, John, with us being frustrated like we are, means that we saw something. That's the thing. Just 1 week ago, the offense was going nuts. Kyle Kelly was doing his thing. The defense looked great. Like they let up in the air a little bit, but we fought back. And then this week, just like that game didn't even happen. So there was something there that had us believing, which is a good sign if we want to look at it positively. But where I want to take it real quick, if you'll let me move to something, guys, I might have been off when I said there was some timeout mismanagement in the UConn game. I think Coach Yu explained it decently well. But this game, there was definitely something wrong because it wasn't just my football senses going off, but the commentators, the announcers were constantly harping on the fact that I think we went to halftime with 3 timeouts or 2 timeouts, and we had the ball at the 50. And people have been saying, they were in my messages last week, like, hey, we're not being aggressive enough at halftime. And I said that during the UConn game too, like, hey, we left points on the board. Like if we did something, that game could have went a certain type of way if we were more aggressive there. And then for it to be 7-7, and I know Coach Yu has explained he doesn't want to give the ball back to the teams, right? But at a certain point, are we being too overly conservative instead of trying to score at that critical junction of the game? And then just like at the end of the game, right? We get the ball back at a fumble. There's maybe 100 seconds left in the game, right? And we're working down the field. We're working down the field. Great drive, truly. And when we get to the end zone, there's no urgency in this team. Like we're not taking a timeout. We can't decide if we want to get that last touchdown or not. So then it looks weird when we take a timeout with 1 second left. And Hammock comes over and angrily shakes Coach Yu's hand. But it's like there wasn't a strong enough direction there. We didn't know, hey, are we going for the points and then going to do the onside kick thing, or are we just going to let it be? And the team honestly just was like, it is what it is. Like we'll do two quarterback draws with Kyle or something, and not really. I think they had a pass play, but he just ended up running it. So what do you guys think about that? Am I off on the timeout thing, or because I think we ended the game with timeouts as well, or maybe we didn't and we called it with 1 second left or something like that? What do you guys think?
I remember that sequence at the end of the game, and I think I do agree with you that the game management is something that needs to be improved heavily because I just don't know if situationally going into it, like if we get in this situation here's what we're gonna do, right? They might talk about it, but and I don't want to take anything away from the coaching staff because I know they got great guys and they're working hard, but it's like when you do stuff like this, like even at the end of that game, right? It's like they're trying to score points, but they're not leaving themselves enough time to be able to, if they do get the onside kick, right, are they going to even have an opportunity to score again,
Mhm.
right? Like, if you're scoring at the end of the game, is it like a pride thing? Like, the management of the clock, it just didn't make sense for what they were trying to do, right? Because they came up short before they scored, right? They were trying to score and they came up short, and the game is over, and it's 21-7. It's like, what was the thinking behind that at the end of the game, right? They got a unforeseen turnover, right? They probably didn't like Northern Illinois. They're probably pissed off that they even fumbled the ball because if they got that first down, the game is over. They knee it out,
Right.
right? So we end up getting the ball. Right. If you're gonna score, it's like you got to score right now, right? You got to take
Mhm.
shots. You got to get 20-yard explosive plays. Like you can't just dink and dunk and run your same offense when you're in that situation. So I agree with you, Colin. I don't know if there is like a plan in place or plays in place to where if they get in this situation, like we have to get explosive chunks to get in the end zone, right? If we do get an unforeseen turnover, we got to score in 3 plays, right?
Right.
To leave ourselves time to be able to get an onside kick and then obviously try to score again to tie it up. So I agree, and that's what I mentioned earlier before, like even going into the halftime, it's like where is the sense of urgency? Where is the tempo, right? The no huddle, right, to get this team going? Because there's like those are chances for you to steal points. And I feel, coach, like, yeah, if you don't get it and you punt it, right, you give the chance another opportunity to score. But if you're clicking and if you know your system and if you know the plays you want to go to and you've been hitting them, like there is no chance for them to get the ball back. And if they do get the ball back, you've already scored, right? You have the mind. That's the mindset to have. So I'm not sure. They never go into depth about what the mindset is going into a game or into situations like that. Um, but it's obviously telling, right? If the commentators or even if we're bringing it up, it is telling, and it shows that maybe we aren't as prepared for these situations, right? And it's more of just like, let's just call the plays and see if we get something out of it, right? That's what it feels like, but you never
Mhm.
Yeah.
really know because these guys are never telling the whole story.
Shouldn't shouldn't you have 5 to 10 plays for a situation just like that, that Kyle Kelly is super comfortable with to
Mhm.
just go for it?
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. You have to
I'm
have those
thinking,
plays in the
right?
game plan, because those situations are going to come up, and you have to have these go-to plays that Kelly knows like the back of his hand, right? And the receivers have ran the routes. It's just like, that's all repetition. You have to practice that stuff, right? You can't just go into the game day and just, call it at the bottom of the sheet and hope it works, right? You have to be strategic and you got to know, they have to know the situation and they have to go out there and execute at the end of the day. Because that's what it comes down to, guys. They have to be able to execute the offense. And, we are saying all this, but coach could have all these plays and all this situational stuff and they just don't execute,
Mhm.
right? So that's the other part of it. Is just like we don't know which it is. But one thing for sure is that they're not on the same page when it comes to executing certain situations and getting the most out of it. Because that's what we want to see. We want to see them get the most out of every single drive and not just go 3 and out thinking about, oh, we don't want to give the ball back to them. So let's just run the clock as long as we can and get into halftime. Like that's not a winning formula. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's not going to get the job done.
Yeah, my thoughts on the timeouts toward the end of the game I was talking is in this scenario, if you're down by 14 and they had how many timeouts you say they had 3 left at the end of the game?
No, they might have only had, like, 1 that they just barely used. It was just they used
Right.
1, they burned 1 early, so they had
Mhm.
2, and then they might have used 1 to, like, stop the clock, uh, before getting down to the goal line, and then they just decided, like, half-heartedly with, like, a second or 2 or 3 seconds left to take a timeout,
Mhm.
like, at the 4-yard line, and they could have taken the timeout earlier during that, like, it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah, my thought process on that is if you are down 14 in that scenario, you exhaust your timeouts to keep as much time on the clock as you can. So if you do score, you have a chance to get the ball back and still run a play or two. Now, you're not going to have any timeouts left, but I don't know that saving a timeout in that scenario for a scenario that might not happen when you're in a
right,
scenario right now that has to happen. So you
right,
can't be down 7 until you're not down 14, if that makes any sense. So I think you got to exhaust all those in that situation at the end of the game personally. But, again, they have stuff in place that apparently tells them what to do there. So they're in those jobs and we're not right now. So that's up for them to decide, I guess.
John and Willie, the other thing that made me feel like we potentially got outcoached is just the fact that their game plan is the same exact game plan as our game plan. I just believe that our players are better than theirs. So they want to run it, occasionally pass it. My question is they rushed like 57 times or something like that, something in those numbers. At number 35, were you thinking like we need to stack the hell out of the box? You know what I mean? Like they can't keep doing this. And it was going to the outside, it was going to the inside, really whatever they wanted is how I felt is the run game was getting it. So I just don't understand like what did they think was going to happen beforehand? And then I'll throw this out here as well. I saw on the I'm looking in the enemy lines and an NIU reporter got into it with the head coach because the head coach had another quarterback starting on like the draft thing or like on the
the depth chart.
The depth chart. Yeah, thank you. Now, was our team preparing for a pass first quarterback before this? Is like that's maybe what I'm thinking. Like that's how because the guys, the first 3 plays of the game, run, run, run for a touchdown. Their first 3 plays were runs, and on the 3rd play, they got a 53-yard touchdown. Like they did it all day. How did we not adjust to it? Or did we adjust to it and the guys just personnel just like didn't make the tackles? I don't know. I was watching, but I'm
No,
not sure.
I think honestly, like, they probably, I mean, they probably knew in the game. I mean, we said it on here too. It's like they're gonna run the ball, right? They only have one win, and their calling card is to run the ball, right? And that's their identity. So they should have already knew coming into the game that we have to shut down the run. We got to make them one dimensional and throw the football, right? Because the quarterback, he only threw 11 times and completed 6. So that's a huge notice right there. It's like, well, they're not going to try to throw the ball today. And even if you get it at halftime, it's like those halftime adjustments, man. Like you said, Collins, we got to load the box. We're going to play one-on-one outside and make them throw the football because they're not going to beat us running the ball. And I'm just looking at the stats. Like one of the running backs had 37 carries. The next guy had 15, and they both had 100 yards. You know what I'm saying? It's just like at that point, it's like it comes down to like just grittiness and having, personally, just having that mentality like they are not going to beat us run the football today, right? Like they are telling you that we're going to run the football on you guys and we're going to beat your ass doing it, right? And that's basically all it was. And we got out physicaled, right? We got out game planned in some ways. It's a cumulative of stuff, man. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down. And they put this on tape, man. It's just like if you get physical enough with Ball State, they're gonna fold. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I watch the tape, the silent tape, that's what I see. And they have to change that narrative, guys, because at the end of the day, it's like teams are just gonna come in, you know, especially if it's on the road, right? It's like all we gotta do is run the ball at these guys, not make mistakes, don't turn the ball over, and we win the game. And I hate that for this team because they are so talented. But at the end of the day, when you put stuff like this on tape, teams you give teams an edge and you give them a idea of the type of team you are, right? We're already halfway through the season. We got 8, they already played 8 games, so it's like we know the identity of this team in some ways. But it's like when you put that stuff on tape, Colin, it's not good because teams are going to come in with the mindset of we're going to run the ball on these guys. We're going to be more physical than them, and if we do it long enough, they'll fold, right? Because offensively, it's like we've shown that we cannot play from behind. That is not what we want to do. We want to be ahead or we want to be in a close game. But if we have to play from behind, like Kyle Kelly's not built to play from behind, unfortunately. That's my guy too. But at the end of the day, we see what we see. And, Kelly is just not comfortable playing from behind, or at least the coaching staff doesn't put him in position to like be comfortable and be successful when if we do fall behind, it's like, here's the bread and butter. This is what we're gonna go to, right? It's like there has to be a different formula, a different plan in place, especially like halftime. Like I know coaches that like are great halftime adjustment guys, right? They might come into a game thinking this team is going to do this or this is what we've prepared for all week, and then all of a sudden they come out and run something totally different, right? And if your coaching staff can come in at halftime and make adjustments to where you're more competitive, and at the end of the game you're in position to win, that says a lot about a coaching staff to get their guys to switch their guys into a different mindset and to continue to get the most out of these guys. Like it does come down to coaching, Colin, when we're talking about this stuff because some of it is the guys, but it's like you got to put these guys in position to be successful. Like don't continue to run the same stuff if you're getting killed when you're running it. It's like it's just I don't know, man. It's tough to talk about because it's like we see two different teams on our guys, and it's frustrating, right? Because it's like we expect this, but we're getting this. And this isn't it. Like this is not going to get us to a bowl game. This is not going to get us to six. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're seeing, but we expect a team that puts up 42 points. We have that in us,
Right.
right? And our defense is solid. Like we got one of the better front seven guys in the MAC. So I don't understand how we can give up 200-yard rushers and allow this team to run the ball over 50 times. Like that's a pride thing, man. At the end of the day, it's like your pride will not let these guys like kill us like this, and especially when they're telling us, right? They're not even trying to be slick about it. They're just lining it up and running it straight downhill at us. You know what I'm saying? As a player, it's like at some point you just gotta be like, nah, man, this ain't happening today. And I don't know if that was the conversation on the sidelines. It's just it's really hard to tell, John, because it's like I said, we see two different teams every week, and we just don't know which one we gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Willie, so you just mentioned that it was apparent this game that Kyle Kelly isn't really built to throw us back from behind. And I agree from this game that would tell you that. But the crazy thing, and you just mentioned this, he's so different at home because just last week he
Hmm.
threw us back into the game from behind. Against Ohio, he won us the game from behind. So I know he can do it. I think he is built like that. And I think you agree too, but whatever happens away from home, it's not translating. It looks like he's not built to do that away from home. Like, so whatever, I don't know what's happening. And you pretty much mentioned it too, but it's crazy the difference in this team, home and away, even just as far as like, throwing the team back from behind.
Yeah, and I don't know honestly. Like if I'm a routine guy, you know what I'm saying? Like I honestly, me personally, I love playing on the road. I'd rather play on the road than at home
Mm-hmm.
because there's less distractions, right?
Yep.
When you're at home, you got your family, you got your friends, you got all these other distractions because that's what you're used to, right? But when you go on the road, right, you're isolated. You're in a hotel, right? All you're doing is focused on playing the game. That's the only reason you're on the road. It's a business trip, and I feel like that's where you really have to be at your best is on the road. And I honestly think like there's like the routine that they have, whatever it is. Maybe the hotel beds are trash. Maybe the food is garbage on the road. Maybe like they just don't have like a set routine to get them in that mindset to play 60 minutes of tough physical Ball State football, right? That's how I always found success on the road is just finding a routine and sticking to it, man. And I don't know if I mean this is a young team, right? These are college kids, so maybe it's like maybe they take it lightly. Maybe they don't have a routine. Maybe they just like go through the motions, and then when they get the kickoff, they're trying to wake up all of a sudden, right? Like it's a build up to kickoff, and some of the guys I've been around that are great, it's like they always had their road routine. They always had to do this in the morning. They take the third bus. They make sure they get some type of stretch. They roll in out. They go out on the field an hour before and run routes. Like it's just every guy is wired differently, but to the coaching staff, they got to find a way to get this team locked in on the road because right now it's not there, unfortunately. And I'm not there. None of us are there, so we really have no idea what's the difference between them playing on the road and them playing at home. But that has to get fixed because if they don't win a game on the road this year, they have to carry that into next year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's a concern. That is a huge concern if you want to be competitive not only in the MAC, but just in general with anybody. That has to be changed. That has to be fixed.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Carrying it over if this does happen into next year, because again, the non-conference slate at the beginning of next year, going to Columbus, Ohio, play Ohio State. You're going to go play Northwestern. So now you're going to be potentially put back
Mhm.
even further into this, hope this potential road losing streak getting, kind of out of control. And just the things you guys touched on, I wanted to kind of add a couple things and we can kind of move on a little bit. But number one, it just seems like yesterday, the two different game plans, Northern Illinois' game plan and Ball State's game plan, it seemed like Northern Illinois executed it way, way better than what Ball State did. Ball State's game plan was a heavy dose of Kyle Kelly. He did everything he could do. He
Right.
ran the ball 27 times. A quarterback running the ball 27 times is crazy.
That's
But
too
Northern
much.
Illinois was ready for it. They knew what was coming. They knew they were going to make somebody else beat them. They were not going to get beat by him yesterday. That's just how it was going to be. And Northern Illinois said, you know what? We're going to run the ball, and we're just going to run the ball 57 times. That is an insane number. And they just said basically, hey, we're going to keep doing this until you can stop us.
Until
And
you
I have
stop. Right.
a story similar to this. For those of you who don't know, I used to work for the Indianapolis Colts, and so I was when I was working for the Colts, I was on the Steelers sideline one game, and this is when Le'Veon Bell was on the team, Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, all these guys. And we could not stop Le'Veon Bell to save our lives that day. And you know what? You know what Mike Tomlin said? I heard him. I was standing right next to him. We just said, "Run that play again. Run it again. Run it again. If they're not going to stop us, we're going to run it again." And they just marched the ball down us all game, and we couldn't stop them. And that's exactly what Northern Illinois did yesterday. 300
Yep.
yards they gave up
Yep.
on the ground. It's just that was their game plan. They executed it. We had our
Yep.
game plan. We couldn't execute it. No one else was able to step up and kind of take this, pressure off Kyle Kelly yesterday.
Yep.
So
I mean, honestly,
yeah,
John, it's like, what do you expect when you run the quarterback 27 times?
yeah, exactly.
And your next running back only has 11,
Hmm.
and he just went off for like 160 last week.
Yep.
It's like if anything, Kyle Kelly should only have 11 rushing
Right.
yards, and between Quay and Horton, like they should at least have over 15 a carry. Because it's like that's what they put on tape that these guys, when you get them going, it's like they're a problem to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So that part doesn't make any sense why this kid is running the ball 27 times. And I'm sure there was scramble opportunities there where he just took off and run. But
Right.
come on, John, you can't put that stat line out there. Like that's way too
Mm-mm.
much for a
No.
quarterback. The wear and tear is crazy for Kelly right now.
Yeah, and so obviously 27 sacks or 27 rushes. He got sacked 4 times as well yesterday. I guess we can kind of finish up with the offense while we're here before we move on. Willie, receiver room, not really much at
Yeah,
all out of them. What did you
right.
see from the receiving room yesterday? I know we were expecting maybe a little bit more out of them, but
Yeah.
obviously we didn't get much.
Yeah, it's hard to get anything going out of the receiver group when you can't have a consistent passing game. It was
Mhm.
good to see Ty Robinson get involved. He had a couple catches. Magwood only had one catch, which is that's not good, man. When you got your number one receiver only getting one catch, it's like that's not a formula to be successful. And it's hard to talk about any of the guys because not a lot of guys didn't really show up. You got every guy had one catch except Ty.
Yeah, Robinson. Yep.
And honestly, like I feel like we have a bunch of talent in the receiver room. We're just not utilizing it the right way. It's like if anything, get Quay, get Magwood, a couple hitches to get him going, right? Get a slant in there, get a back shoulder, right? Like just start getting these guys more involved. Just call the pass plays. And I just think sometimes we try to out scheme people when the simple play is sometimes the best play.
Mhm.
And I think yesterday was just, it was just a cumulative of stuff of just not being consistent and not being able to get into a rhythm to be able to be effective on offense. We just had no rhythm. We couldn't get into one, and it was tough to watch, man. But I know one thing for sure. We're going to talk about special teams, but Adam Saw had over 200 yards punting.
Mhm. Yeah.
That right there. I know he got some work and he's a great player, but when the punter is punting that much, that's a problem for offenses, right?
Mhm.
We're not staying on the field long enough. We're not converting on third down. That has to be fixed, John. If this group wants to continue to build on the passing game, because right now Kelly is a one-way player, and that's run the football. But we know he's way more talented than that. He's done in the past, but it's hard to do anything at receiver when we're not being consistent and completing in the passing game. So it was tough to watch, but it's just stuff they have to continue to work on and continue to get better at.
That's right. And again, sitting at 3-5 right now, the season is not over. They still got
Yeah,
stuff. They still got goals that are available for them, but
right.
that margin for error is getting smaller and smaller with every loss. Colin, do you
Hmm.
have anything else on the offense kind of before we move on and look a little bit more into the defense here?
I think Willie put it perfectly, but I'll give just a little story. I watched the game and afterwards, I just took my contacts out, right? Like I didn't really want to see anything else. Like that was it. Like it was a type of game that like just really ugly. Just really
Yeah.
ugly. And offensively, we touched on it. I mean, we can't we are overly reliant on Kyle Kelly, but like throwing it, trying to catch up into the games at away, not home, because you can do it at home, but away is just not working, and it's been looking terrible. 7 points per game away from home. That's the story, John.
Yep. So let's move on to the defense here. Obviously, the big thing you'll see 57 rushes for over 300 rushing yards. So
Hmm.
not much in the passing game for Northern Illinois, but that I think is basically by design. Only giving up 21 points though on the road. I'll take that. If you would have told me last week that Ball State would give up 21 points against Northern Illinois, I would think they would have been in this game. I mean, it would have been right in it. Obviously, not the case. So, Willie, did you see anything out of the defense that we didn't really mention yet? Obviously, just they ran it nonstop, basically, on us.
Yeah, shout out to Nathan Vorez because he got another sack, working towards that goal of breaking that record. Um, you know, Lewis got a pick, got his hands on another interception, which is good for him. Um, but overall, man, I think when the team runs the ball 50 something times on you and is successful doing it, it's like you have to look, these guys got to look themselves in the mirror and just be like, are we the team that we think we are? Because we see them do great stuff at home. We see them have flashes. Like we talk about the defense more than the offense, in a positive light.
Mhm.
And when we see this type of performance and the fact that we knew going into the game that they were going to run the ball and that was their way to win the game, and they do it, that calls for some real self-reflection, some real self-scouting, because at the end of the day, it's like, if you can't stop the run, you're gonna have a hard day in the office that day, and I hate to see this for that group because this is one of their strengths, honestly, is the front seven and being able to stop the run. But I don't know, that day yesterday, I don't know. They just weren't. They didn't have their piss hot, or they didn't feel that that challenge. They didn't meet the challenge that Northern Illinois was putting up that day. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to being more competitive, man. It's like you want games like this. It's gonna be a slugfest. I've been in plenty of games like this where we're going back and forth, and this team is gonna run the ball. It's a physical game. I think about the Steelers and Ravens game. It's just like
Mhm.
we both run the ball and we knew it was gonna be a physical day. That defense knew it was gonna be physical, right? But it's just at the end of the day, like you got to make more plays than another team. And at the end of the day, we didn't make this team one dimensional because if this quarterback is only throwing the ball 11 times, if they couldn't run the ball, what does that team look like? Are they even successful throwing the ball, right? We wouldn't
Mhm.
even know that. But it was just hard to watch because it's like, that's not the identity of our defense. And I think they know that. And, they have 10 days to prepare for this next game. And they probably need those 10 days to kind of just really check themselves and see if this is how they want to finish out the year. Because every team left on their schedule is going to try to run the ball right into the teeth of our
Mhm.
defense, and they're going to consistently do it for over a 60-minute period and see if they can stop them, right? And if they can stop them, that's where the offense has to come alive and be able to, reward the defense in some way for stopping them. Because if the defense gets the football team off the field and three and out a couple drives and we don't see any points from it, you know, that brings some wear and tear of itself just mentally for the defense. Just to know that if we stop these guys, our offense is going to go down the field and score. You feel a different juice, right? But from the defense perspective, they probably don't see the offense clicking. They don't see them moving the chains. They don't see them scoring. I mean, mentally, you can get beat up just by that. You know what I'm saying? So it was a cumulative things, John, just with defense. But it was just hard to watch because we know that the defense is way better than that, and to run the ball 57 times like that is that's a tough day at the office, man.
That's like a pretty staggering number. I mean, I watch a lot of
Hmm.
football. I don't really feel like I see rushing attempts up in the 50s very often. That's pretty,
Yeah,
and,
50s, man.
or a quarterback running the ball 27 times. Colin, I know
Right.
Willie kind of hit the nail on the head pretty well with that defense. Do you have anything else defensively, or are you ready to move on to special teams? I know you got some big stuff for special teams today.
Mm.
I do, but I want to highlight that uh, JoJo Lewis pick because I think the game was tied 7-7, and that pick was
Mm.
in the end zone. Huge play,
Oh
momentum
yeah.
swing. And like
Hmm.
Willie said, there was a bunch of plays where the defense did get the ball back. Like we had that fumble recovery, and the
Hmm.
offense never really capitalized on it. And you spoke to the fact, John, okay, Ball State only let up 21. That's not really bad. I would normally agree, but this NIU team had only scored like 79 points or
Mm-hmm.
83 points coming in here, averaging like, I don't know, in 7 games. So what, 11 points a game or something like that. So
Hmm.
we let them almost double what they're normally averaging. We let the quarterback score his first touchdown at Husky Stadium. Just sickening, sickening.
All right, Colin, lead us right in. I know you're Mr. Special Teams around here. I
Yeah,
know you got some thoughts. Let's move on to
yeah.
special teams here. Before you do that, though, anybody out there listening, we got a bunch of comments so far. Get them in, get your comments, get
Hmm.
your questions, throw them in here, and we'll read them all at the end of the show.
So, I always ask Cardinal Nation, like, what's the pulse? What's the vibe? Didn't even officially do it, just put my finger out there, felt the vibe. Guys, one thing we have to address, and this is a special teams related thing. Of course, we'll get it out the way, give Adam Saul his flowers. But what is going on with punt return? Why do we keep muffing punts? This was really the back breaking play, in my estimation. We muff the punt, give the ball to the guys. We're already down 14-7. Give the ball to the bad guys on our side of the field. And perfect, field goal range, almost in the red zone. Like, I think we were down 14-7 at that point already. Like, guys, what is going on? Why are we having so much trouble fielding the punts this year? This has been a consistent issue now.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting you put that because I feel like this has been multiple people now that they've used back there. I don't think it's been the same people all year. I think they've kind of moved out to some people throughout the season. And yes, I agree. It kind of keeps happening. So, Willie,
Yeah.
can you explain this to us, people who've never played? Why is this not only an issue, but it seems like it's happening to multiple people?
Yeah. Uh, Honestly, I think it's something that's not practiced enough. Because it's hard to catch punts, and you have to
Mhm.
read the punt. Like I learned how to read punts when I was in the NFL, and I was catching punts in college, but I wasn't reading the football. Like I was just saw where it was kicked, I run and try to catch it just like off the cuff, right? But when I got to the league, you're around a whole bunch of coaches that have been in this game for like over 25 years, and you pick up a few nuggets along the way. And one of the things I've learned was that you have to read the tip of the football, and if you're able to read it and how it's kicked and which way it goes, like you can get a jump on the ball and get to the spot fast and be able to, catch it without, you know, rushing or feeling like you're not in position. And another thing is, Colin, is like when you're catching the ball, like your feet have to be up under you the whole time. Like guys will try to like drift and catch it on the run and stuff, but the best way to catch these punts is in a set position with, your knees slightly bent, hands high, and just because if you're not getting to the spot fast enough, that's when a whole bunch of stuff can start going through your head and you're
Mhm.
just not focused all the way to the catch point. And I just think it's not practiced enough because they're going through these guys like, you know, like too much. I know Lewis was back there for the last couple of weeks. It started with Weatherly, but I just from what I see consistently, it's just not practiced enough. And I think punt returners should always catch punts in the beginning of practice before it even starts for like 10, 15 minutes. And then at the end of practice, whether they challenge them, they do a game or something, but they have to continue to get reps at this because it's not something like it's an art. If you don't practice it, you're never going to be good at it. Right. And
Mhm.
I just think these guys aren't experienced enough, one, to just go out there and just catch punts and put the life of the team in jeopardy, because nobody can catch it. But these guys gotta practice. It should be Weatherly back there catching it, but he's put too many times on tape where he's putting the ball on the ground. So as a coach, it's like, what do you do? Do you put the guy back there that started the season, or do you put a guy who's less experienced but he's an athlete to go back there and catch punts? It's like what do you do? But at the end of the day, it's like this has to be practiced more and has to be taken serious more because, like you said, Colin, like you give the other team back the football with great field position already. You might as well just hand them the game at that time. You know what I'm saying? But as a punt returner, a person that's caught punts both in the league and college, this is something I didn't get good at this until I was practicing. I caught so many punts, even though I didn't catch them in the game. If I ever was put in the game, I was gonna catch it because of the repetitions, right? You got to get the reps up. But if I never practiced, if I never like studied it, I would have never went back there. I would have dropped every punt because I'm not that good. Nobody's that good if you don't do it, unless you're like
Mhm.
Devin Hester, right? Like that it comes natural to him. But for everybody else, you got to practice it so much, John, until it's like second nature, like catching a football.
Mhm.
Yeah,
One last thing with the special teams, guys, and we have to touch on this too. We cannot move on before we talk about the kicking game
yeah,
because we missed a kick from the 45 this game, and then I believe our kicker is now 3 of 6 on the season with a season long of 23 yards, guys.
Mm.
So this is a bad season to have our kicking game kind of, iffy, kind of shaky because we haven't been, we're scoring 7 points a game on the road. Like we need all the points we can get. This is
yeah,
a
for
Mhm.
bad
sure.
time to have the kicking game kind of like not to really be super trusting in your kicker. It's putting us in bad positions as well. And you know, we got to mention it because we have an all-American FCS. Apparently, this is what the Cardinal Nation is telling me. We have an all FCS backup kicker.
Mm,
And I mean, kicking should be easy to evaluate. Me and John spoke about this. You line them up, they do their kicks, but like sometimes the guy gets the yips. And
yeah,
I don't know if he's got that. They can evaluate that better than me, but right now it's not good.
Yeah, because it's like, you know what? I think I've given him a pass sometimes at points this year, being like, "Oh, it was a long kick or whatever for a mat kicker," and this and that. But like
Mm,
at the end of the day, we got to get them go through. They got to go through the uprights. If
mhm,
you're sending them out there to kick, that means that you are of the belief that they're going to make this. And if for some reason they're not going in, we got to figure out a way to get them in. Those are points, like you said. And if we're struggling on the road, we got to figure out to get as many points as we can. And so if
yeah,
you're attempting to kick, that tells me you think it's going to go in. Otherwise, we're not going to be doing it. So if
yeah.
they're not
This
going
is
in,
this is a
we got to get them
week. This is a week, John, that they have to kind of consider, making that switch. Like at some point this week, they should have a competition between both kickers. Have six kicks and six different spots, and just let them go out for it. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's like if this guy was consistently making kicks, we don't have this discussion. But the fact is, Colin, you're right. Like those are points left out that we need, especially on the road. Excuse me. You got to make your kicks, man. And if they do have an All-American kicker on the bench, you know, as a coach, it should be an easy call. You know what I'm saying? You got to give the other guy an op if he's earned it. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got to earn the right? You can't just give it to him because the guy's having a bad day and you know he's not doing what he needs to do to help the team. But I think this week they should have a competition between the kickers. Let them kick it out, and whoever wins that competition should be able to go into next week. Uh, being able to make those kicks. So yeah, this is something we definitely shouldn't have to talk about, Colin, but we have to because at the end of the day, like if we need 3 points to win the game, are you going to feel good about it? If it's coming from 40, 45 yards, right? We
in.
we got to be able to make those kicks.
Yep.
And
So,
Kent State is scoring. Kent State is scoring right now. They just
mhm.
put up 24
Hmm.
against Bowling
Bowling Green.
Green. So
Yep.
Yeah,
All right,
they're
everyone.
coming.
Last chance out there to get these questions and comments in. Again, we got a handful. We'll get to those here in just a second. So, guys, our post game chirp. Again, it could be anything you want it to be. You can open any way you want. It could be about the game yesterday. It could be about this upcoming game against Kent State in like 10 days, like Willie said. But Colin, I'll kick it to you first. Give me your post-game chirp from this NIU game this weekend.
Wow. I'd probably just say it's looking forward. My post-game chirp is I hope this team has some resiliency built in. And I know they do. I know they do because we bounced back against Western Michigan, or after we took that 42-0 beating to Western Michigan, we bounced back the next game against Akron. Here we are in another position. We lost the Bronze Stalk, hopefully not forever, but for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have that's gut-wrenching. That's terrible. You feel sick. But do you have it in you to bounce back? And I think this is a team we should beat. We need to protect the shoe. And if everything goes right, we should beat this team. But my post-game chirp is, does this team have the resiliency to bounce back and show some heart like I think they can? That's my post-game chirp.
Okay, I like it. Willie, yours.
I mean, for me, my post game chirp is, these guys really got to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves if this is how do I want this season to end, right? We got 4 games left, 2 at home, 2 on the road. And, these are 4 winnable games, right? Especially like the next 2. And the next 2 are at home. So that's the one positive going into this is like we got 2 home games back to back against 2 teams that are actually, winnable games, right? And I really just want these guys to kind of look in the mirror and check themselves, man, because it just like a game like this that just passed, like there was enough pride and enough motivation to go in there and get the dub, especially against a team who was down already and they're trying to find their identity at the same time, and they found their identity on us, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
and that shit sucks, So these next 2 games, man, these last 4 games, it's like who do you want? How do you want to be remembered? How does this 2025 team want to be remembered? Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you ask me today if the season was over today, I would say this team has so much talent, but they couldn't play consistent football, complementary football, and they could not win a road game. And when we're talking like that, that's not a team that's going to be successful in the long run, right? Because we're talking about already going into next year carrying this type of mentality, into it. And it's just like you don't want to do that, right? We want to end this season on a great note. Hopefully we get into a bowl game and we're talking about that. But at the end of the day, it's like we're not talking about that right now. We're not even thinking about bowl games right now. We haven't even earned the right to win a bowl, to even be considered in a bowl game because of what we're putting out there on tape, especially when we play on the road. So my post game chirp is to kind of is self reflection, man. Who are you? What do you want this team to be remembered, right? Because I think that's what we're at in this point in the season, right? We put so much stuff on tape, good and bad, but at the end of the day, these last 4 games are gonna be the most important games, especially the next one,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I really just want these guys to just really check themselves, not only as a person but as a team. Have that play only players only meeting, right? Because I just think that this team, if they want to be considered for a bowl game, if they want to be able to end this season on a successful note, they got to check the man in the mirror, and then they got to check their homeboy next to him and make sure that he's on the same page. Because when you lose a game like this, man, like it hurts your pride, because this team, I'm looking at my trips from last week, and the last trip I had was shut down the run, make NIU one dimensional, and we didn't meet that challenge, and I believe that's going to be the next couple weeks. You got a Kent State group that's coming in hot, you got Eastern Michigan, the next game that they always play their best game, and then you got Toledo and Miami of Ohio on the road. So these next 4 games are going to be challenging, but I don't think it's out of reach. These guys just have to continue to get better, but they got to check themselves in the mirror and they got to check the man next to him, make sure that he's on the same page. Because, if they don't do that, we're going to see the same results like we did like this week. And then, we just won't end the season the way we hoped we would, to be in position to be in a bowl game and all that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
really just got to check themselves, John, in the mirror and, make sure that everybody's on the same page because, you know, That's what it's going to take to win these next 4 games, or at least to win the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my post game chirp is fairly similar to yours, Willie. I'll kind of take a little bit of a different direction here, but
Yeah.
if this season ended today, I said this earlier. Excuse me. As of right now, and this is going to sound harsh, but you know what? Maybe this is bulletin board material that we need. If this season ended today, this is what we're going to be remembered for. Ball State in the 2025 season will be remembered for losing this game and letting that Bronze Stalk walk out of the MAC and walk out of Muncie forever, potentially. And I know that the guys in the coach's office, in the locker room, they don't want to be remembered for that. They want to remember for good things. So this is your opportunity right here. You had a golden opportunity to win this game yesterday and really set yourself up really well to be remembered for not only keeping the Bronze Stalk, but putting yourself in position, a very good position, to have to win 2 out of your next 4 games to go to a bowl game.
Mm.
So you win that, you get your stock, you get in a bowl game. That's a great season to remember. But as of right now, this is what we're going to be remembered for. And, you know, as time goes on, newer fans won't know this or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But the old fans will always remember, as of right now, that this is what happened this year. This was such a big game. This is why I told Coach Yurimovich, you know, back when we talked to him the first time, I said, this is the biggest game of the season by far, because this is our biggest rival and it's the last time that's happening. So as of right now, this is what we're remembered for. This is what the 2025 Ball State Cardinals are remembered for, are losing the Bronze Stalk. And that might sound harsh. And I want it to sound harsh. I want it to motivate these guys to not let this be what they're remembered by. But as of right now, that's what it is. So that's my post-game chirp is right now we're remembered for losing the stock. Don't let that be what you're remembered for. Colin's got
I feel
something.
you, John. I feel you.
Yeah, you're spot on, and I think the only way, honestly, this is just me. The only way for us to get that taste out of our mouth, and for this team to be remembered for something else, is to go 6-6 and get that bowl invite.
Great. I think
That's
that's
the only way, honestly, and I think we can win these next 2. We're better than Kent State, and I think we're better than Eastern Michigan. We can always kind of compete with Miami. I think I have to watch it back, but I think Kyle Kelly said one of his favorite teams to play was Miami of Ohio. So that'd be a great surprise win, shocking win. Right now, can we predict that? I mean, no way. No way. With the way this team plays on the road.
Yeah.
But 2 things I want to touch on, John, before we go to the comments section. One, the post-game press conferences. I'm going to make this brief, but they're still not being loaded up and the next day, like even when it's at home. Right now, I don't have a post-game press conference to watch, guys. And this was a game I want to learn more about what happened. I want to know what happened, and I still don't have. And the worst part about it, I don't have the video. It might be out yet since we started recording at 8:30, but it wasn't out yet. The worst part about this is I'm having to go and reach out to people like, "Hey, Mick Tidro, like, why is this not out yet?" And if it's the away visiting thing, like, okay, NIU maybe doesn't have the facilities to have a post-game press conference, please let us know. Because instead, I'm like waiting for it to drop, waiting for it to drop. Ball State of the Union goes live at 8:30. Here I am at 7:30 asking around, where's the video? Because I want to, I want to get the coach's feedback on it before I am criticizing the coach for maybe clock management. You know what I mean? Like certain stuff like that. That's just frustrating to me, but I know that's something that is me personal, and I don't know if you guys share that. But one final thing, John, before we move on, I tweeted this out. The line of this game was plus 6.5, guys. And Willie, I know you don't bet. I know you can't bet. So that means if I took that line, Ball State would have to lose by 7 to lose my bet. So what did I do? I did an alternate spread and made it 7.5 because I went back and looked through the time. Like the last time Ball State lost by more than 7 points was 2018. So I figure, okay, I'll make plus 7.5. It was like $40 to win 30, right? Not great, but I thought it was a gimme. And so the end of the game, Willie, and you know this, and John, you too, they're driving down the field about to score, and just the lackadaisical, like, oh, maybe we'll take a timeout, maybe we won't. That was killing me. That was crushing me. So those are my two points to make real quick.
Okay.
I feel you, Colin.
All right, listener comments and questions. We'll start them up. If you want to throw any last second ones in, feel free to do so. So the first one comes over on YouTube from Allie. Disappointing loss. This offense in particular is just not consistent enough. Kyle Kelly can't do it all. We need more playmakers to win in college football. Yeah, I think we all agree. We've hit on that as well. Kyle Kelly's doing as much as he can. He needs other people to help pick up this last lack of passing game or even passing ability. I think even he would tell you that he's not the world's greatest passing quarterback of all time, but they need these other guys to step up on offense and make sure that they can throw the ball some so that he's not having to run the ball 27 times like it did yesterday. So,
And it comes down to play selection too. At the end of the day, it's like I've seen these guys try to run these deep crosses and like these 20-yard route plays, and it's just like one, we don't have the protection enough to be able to make those throws, and I don't even know if Kyle Kelly is that accurate when we're talking about throwing 25, 30 yards down the field. Like I think it comes down to more play selections, like getting the ball out of his hands quick, get these receivers quicker routes so that they don't have to run longer routes and then hope that the protection holds up and Kelly's seeing, what he needs to see to make the throw. But I think honestly, half of it, yes, he has to execute what's called, but I think honestly too, it's the play selection. Like what plays are you calling to be able to get these guys, different guys involved in the game? Because if we're just targeting, Magwood on these deep routes, it's like that's not a high percentage throw. It's like where are the high percentage throws to where we can get? And I said this in the beginning of the pod. It's like we got to get him in a consistent rhythm. We got to get into a rhythm and be able to feel confident to build up to those 15, 18-yard in routes or the comeback, right? You have to be able to work up to that. You can't just, call that off the top and he hasn't even thrown a pass, that far down the field. It's just a rhythm thing, John. And I think that's where the lack of is because, we don't see a consistent Kyle Kelly week in and week out. And I think a lot of that has to do with the play selection because, I think if he's starting completing, I mean, I'd be interested to see how you guys feel, but if he's completing hitches, screens, slants, stop routes, if he's completing that, do you think he has more confidence to be able to throw the deeper balls as the game goes along versus
certainly.
not throwing the ball at all and then trying to call a deep 25-yard route? You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
that, you have to build and work up to that. And I just don't, that's what I don't see when I watch the games. I just don't see the build up in the pass game for him to make that deeper throw to kind of get that explosive play that we're all looking for.
Yeah, it's like in basketball terms. Like sometimes you have to just see one go in. So if you got to
Hmm.
go make a layup and that gets you going, that's great. So if you got to have just a simple, 1-2 yard pass and get you kind of going and seeing the ball be caught, then yeah, I'm all for that. And if they can make those the playmakers, the wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, whoever it may be, can make those not just a 2 yard play and somehow make that 2 yard catch into a 4 yard catch into a 5 yard catch,
Yeah.
that's even better for everybody. Okay. David over on YouTube. As always, David, thanks for joining us here tonight. Kelly is erratic. It appears Mike New might have been right in not playing him as quarterback. I feel like that's a
Mm,
sentiment amongst a lot of people potentially right now.
yeah.
I think he has proven enough, at times this year that he can play quarterback. It's just, it doesn't seem like this passing game is ever really going to be strong enough or consistent enough so far. Because obviously he's super dynamic with his legs. We saw that last week. We've seen that he can run the ball. He can make the good decisions at times to run it. But it's just this passing game, whether that's him or this offensive line, whether it's the playmakers, it's just really non-existent at times. So
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like last week, he looked great. Like we would not have said this last week.
mhm.
So maybe he is right. It is he maybe he is erratic, but it's just when he's away. Like for whatever reason, he
Yeah.
always looks great at home, and then away, the team just like it's hard to even blame him. The
Yeah.
team in general just doesn't show up when we're away. And I mean, yeah, this is the game where like you can most say like, all right, like the quarterback play has to step up a little bit. But
Yeah.
like, guys, the whole team, I and
Mhm.
it's so crazy because last week he had a great game. That's what I'm like
Yeah.
struggling with.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like preparation wise, what does that look like? Versus a home game and an away game. Like, is the preparation different? Is the scheme different from what it was last week? Is it like, are they not putting enough in? Are they not, or do they have too much? You know what I'm saying? It's just there's such a huge, it's drastic the difference between they play where they the way they play at home and the way they play at, on the road is just it's crazy. And I think I like I don't want to say too much, but it's like honestly, like yes, we can say all this about Kelly because he is the quarterback, and at the end of the day, it's all gonna fall on his shoulders. But it's like, are they putting this kid in position to be successful week in and week out versus just outside of his athletic ability? Because if his ass wasn't athletic, you know, I don't know what this offense looks like because we're not
Mhm.
like
Right.
we rely on this it's a QB driven run scheme. It's all motion in with the sweeps, and it's like quarterback action off of that. It's QB driven runs. It's like, what does the offense look like when the quarterback is not athletic? And I agree. Like he is erratic, but that's the kind of player he is. Like he'll take off and run on your ass, or he'll throw a completion and get 50 out of it. You just don't know what you're gonna get. And those type of players are dangerous. If you have the right scheme and you have them doing certain things to where they can be successful, and you know, week in and week out, you just never know what you're gonna get. Game plan wise when it comes to Kelly.
Mhm. Okay, Allie over on YouTube again. It stinks because from the Together series, it seems like this team has a really great culture, but they just can't get over the humps in some area. And that is a good sign. I do like that people are seeing, and it seems like there's a good culture in the building. That should be able to carry over from year to year. Obviously, you would love to see the results on the field as well, but if they got good culture in the building, then that's great by me, and hopefully that's is true, and they're able to kind of use that from year to year because you know if you guys are closer together, as the show's called, off the field, then it's going to help you on the field. So,
And
uh,
then just to speak on that point, John, it's like they have a great culture, right? And it's you see it. So that's a positive thing because at the end of the day, it's like it comes down to one or two or three plays of execution, right? And these guys aren't executing the way we expect them to, right? Because they're working their ass off. I know these guys are playing hard. I know those guys are practicing each week,
mhm,
and they take this shit serious, right? And when they come to game day, it comes down to those one or two plays where you got to execute, and when you don't, that's when we have these conversations and you bring up these questions. Is the culture right? Is it the quarterback? Is it the defense? It's like, but if they just had executed these one or two plays, right? It's a whole
mhm,
different conversation. So
yep,
like that's how close they are, right? They're close. It's not like they're way off and it's like we have no hope. No, we have a lot to be hopeful about, but these guys just have to it's gotta click for them each week. It can't be one week on and you get your ass beat the next week to get you right back on. Like, no, you have to like I remember Coach Strosky, Rich Strosky, he would talk to us about offense. It's like we don't want to be up here, we don't want to be down here. If we have a great performance or a bad performance, we want to stay even keeled the whole time, right? And that's what we don't see out of our guys. It's like we don't see that even keel week to week, right? It's the same. They talk about it. Coach, you talks about it. Just being at the same level each week. But when they do get a win and they get excited and they look and they all that stuff that comes with winning, it throws off the psyche because now the next week, they lose in a game they should win. And that's not consistent championship winning football. And that's something that it's a little adjustment, man, but it just has to click from it. And when it does, like, like what he's saying right here, the culture is great, and that's the foundation. Like as long as you have that, you'll always have a chance. So, I appreciate the question, because it just reassures that it's like we're that close. We're not that far off.
yep. All right, David fired off like 5 in a row on YouTube, so I'm going to kind of roll through them here real quick. So first one, he said Kelly seems to go to the bench. Doesn't seem like coaches maybe talking to him. He's not talking to teammates. They're ready to get out and score. He's by himself sometimes with his head down. I mean, I don't know how true or not that is. I don't watch the sideline usually, but I'm sure people were pretty down on themselves yesterday for sure. But if that's going on all year, obviously that maybe is not a great thing. But I don't know. Have either of you noticed that?
When I go to the games, John, I sit as close behind the team sideline as I can. Even at the Western Michigan game, I stayed until the 2-minute warning. And initially, I mean, I'm sure he does come to the bench very frustrated and sits down frustrated. He's the quarterback. He's taking the beating. But I even watch the coaches. Like eventually they do come over, have the pads for him, and are talking to him. Shaq comes over to the wide receivers. So every time I've been there, and I've been to Purdue, sat as close as possible at Western Michigan, sat super close to the bench at Ball State against Ohio, and our leaders. I just want to speak up for our leaders because our leaders are speaking up on the sideline. Kyle Kelly is like, you can't be tired. You know what I mean? Like, it's the fourth quarter. We got to go. Like, he does speak his team up. Keon Magwood, same way. I've seen our leaders talk to the team. Nate Vorris, same way. Whatever maybe he saw at this particular game, maybe the vibes are just like way more down than we've seen yet this year. But I can't speak for this game. Obviously, I was not there. But the 3 games I've been to, that hasn't been the case. So if this is the case, that's worrisome.
Mm-hmm. Let me run through the rest of what David had here. So, he agrees poor use of timeouts. And second, there's really not much of a hurry up offense. He said bad coaching, and he said not the first time for lack of use timeouts. Oh, I did read that. I think put that in there twice. And then he said we're 8 games in the season, we still haven't found our way. That is kind of true for some parts of this, whether it be the lack of the passing game, whether it be the consistent not being playing well on the road, whether it be winning a big game, then having a bad performance, and winning another big game and having a bad performance. There are some parts of the team that are consistent at times, but there's definitely some that aren't.
And that's a sign of
Yeah.
inexperience too. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, you know,
Yeah.
it's like when you have those high and low moments as frequently as we do, that just speaks to the inexperience, whether that be players or coaches. You know, just the inexperience of just being able to handle the wins and respond to the losses. Right? Like we
Mhm.
can respond to losses. We've done that time and time again. But how are you handling the wins? You know, does anything change from a winning week and a losing week? Right? Like that, I think that's the biggest thing in all this is just really being able to handle the wins and improve on the wins like you would if you lost. You know, because in some ways, like teams can be win a game, and that could be an indication to them, it's like, oh yeah, we're good. We don't have to continue to do anything different. We don't have to continue to like work at this part of my game because a lot of wins can cover up a lot of bad play if that makes sense,
Mhm.
right? Like something like a missed assignment in a win won't be as detrimental as if you're coaching up in a loss. Right now, everything is magnified in the losses, but in the wins, those same mistakes aren't magnified as much because you won the game, right? And for an inexperienced player, like he could just be like, oh, okay, I got that next time, right? Versus in a loss, like I gotta correct that at practice this week, all week. You know what I'm saying? Like the sense of urgency is different when you lose, and that can't. The sense of urgency has to be even more if you win because now it's like you can't relax. You know, and I heard Nick Saban comment on this one time. It's like winning when you relax, that is like a killer to improvement. It was something like that along those lines, but it's just like when the moral is like when you relax, that's like a death sentence to your success, right?
Yeah.
Because you stop improving at that point, and you have to continue to build each and every week, whether you win or lose. You have to continue to chase something, to chase being better, to chase being more competitive, right? Whatever that is for each player, like they have to learn how to win and handle their wins and continue to go to work and improve versus when they lose, now it's like, I gotta be better or we're gonna lose 2 in a row. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Okay. Jude Kiefer, friend Jude over on Twitter,
Oh,
missing Joey Stimler on defense might have a bigger impact than people realize. He is a leader of the defense. You know, hopefully, if he would have been in, maybe the rushing attack wouldn't have been as bad, but that's tough for one person to overcome by himself there.
When did he go out? Did he not play in the game? I think I missed that one.
I'm not really sure
I'm not sure.
what the deal was. Let me see on here. He might not have even played yesterday, honestly. Let's see. I'm not seeing him on the stat sheet anywhere. So yeah, he might not have even played yesterday.
That's
Um,
tough.
Nolan Green over on YouTube. Are either Kent or Eastern Michigan must wins for vibes heading to the offseason? Nolan, I will answer this for you. They are both must wins. Both of these games have to be won, especially the Kent State game for Colin, which we'll get into next week more. But both are must-win games for sure. This team is this is Idaho CFB. This team is too inconsistent. Played well versus Ohio and UConn. No show against Western Michigan. Akron is playing well. Beat them, but losing to NIU. NIU can't pass, run over. Unbelievable. Yep. I think not only that Ball State lost this game yesterday, but kind of the fashion they lost in. It was pretty tough to pal out there. Jude, again, the vibes in the pre-game locker rooms, et cetera, are just so much better at home. I get that for sure. I'm glad that they have a good home environment. They just got to figure out a way to translate that from Schumann Stadium to wherever they're playing. And so however you do that, they got to figure that out, and they got to figure it out really fast.
Real quick, John, one thing.
Yeah.
Let me jump in. The guy who asked, I think it was Nolan, excuse me, he asked, was Kent State or Eastern Michigan a must-win? You said both of them. You are correct. There are teams in the MAC for a while that have been below us. And those two are one of them, are both one of them. And there's not a ton, right? So you got your Akron, your Kent State, your EMU, and then now at the very bottom, you got UMass. But the way we are playing, gentlemen, if we went to UMass, if we were away at UMass, do you guys think we would win that?
Not yesterday.
No, I don't have the confidence to even say that.
They're 0-8, and we're saying they would not beat UMass away. That's crazy. But that's really genuinely like how the game has looked thus far. But yes, Kent State and EMU are must-wins to keep the hierarchy of the MAC intact. Go ahead, John.
Mm-hmm. Our friend Samuel Hunt.
Go ahead. Hampshire. Like, would you feel good if we went to New Hampshire?
I wouldn't feel good playing. I wouldn't feel good playing anywhere right now until we prove that we can.
I probably feel better going to UMass than going to New Hampshire right now.
Yeah.
But still, I don't feel good about either.
Yeah. Our friend Samuel Hunt, we had him on the show on Wednesday to give us a preview of NIU, and he said, as far as the post game is going, he's not surprised they don't have anything set up for the away teams yet. We found that with the MAC, many schools are like that. He said, we just have Hammock go on Zoom. He says, is that what you guys do on the road normally? No, we usually don't really do anything. We basically, the next day, either Sunday or Monday, usually they'll film a press conference, and then it kind of comes out on Monday, I believe,
Tuesday
usually. So they usually just film something, whenever they get back to town. So
which is fine, but let us know. Let the parents know whose kids just got beat up throughout the game. You know, there's kids that get injured and stuff. Release that information so we know, hey, guys, no post-game press conference. NIU doesn't have the facilities. Please let us know.
Yep. So Jude over on Twitter one more time, Colin, spot on. The leaders in the sidelines are always vocal. Keon, Kyle, Voorhees, etc. So there you go. That's good to hear. Mitchell Green on YouTube. What's the expectation for the rest of the year? And I'll kick this to all of you guys. Are we still fighting for the MAC championship or just a bowl game? I'll kick this one off for you. While statistically, yes, they are probably still alive for the MAC championship. I'm going to go out on a limb here. And again, people can get upset with me if they want. I'm going to go ahead and limb and say that is probably not going to happen. The bowl game is definitely alive and well. Now, they made this a lot more difficult on themselves by not winning yesterday. But that is still alive and well. You got 4 games to win 2. All right. No, excuse me. You got 3 games, 4 games to win 3. So you got to be pretty good, and you're going to have to go on the road to win one of them.
Right.
But it still is not out of the realm of possibility. I think the MAC championship is pretty much done. Colin, what are your expectations for the rest of the year?
That is exactly why this NIU game hurt so bad. My expectations for this year, like what I expect, is to beat Kent State because we're better and it's at home and we're undefeated at home. Beat Eastern Michigan at home because for the same reasons. And then I expect, honestly, this team hasn't told me or shown me any reason why I should pick them away at Toledo or away at Miami of Ohio. So if you're asking what are my honest expectations, now they've fallen to 5-7 and we miss a bowl game, which, you know, depending how we look in the later, could be an okay season, you know, but what we wanted going into the year is a bowl game all the time. And we had that path. The path was NIU, Kent State, Eastern Michigan. Now the path is take care of Kent State, Eastern Michigan, and maybe, you know, luck up in a rivalry game at Miami.
Willie, what about you?
If you had asked me this question before the NIU game, I probably would have said we're in the hunt for the MAC championship. But after this game, I definitely don't believe that we're going to be competing for the MAC championship. I obviously believe that there is hope that we win a bowl game. But yesterday's performance cannot be repeated in these next 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be the Akron performance. It has to be the Ohio performance, right? It has to be those performances if they want to be even close to being in a bowl. Because I agree with you, Colin. I think 5-7 is more realistic than 6-6 after
Mm-hmm.
just the last couple of weeks that we've seen. And that's not what I want. That's just what I've seen on tape. And I've been to two of the games in person, and it's just like it's completely different from what I see in person to what I see on the TV. And if we want to be bowl eligible, we got to win one of these away games. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you can't. There's no other way to do it. So if you had asked me before, MAC championship was definitely in the conversation before we played NIU, not afterwards. And these next couple weeks are going to be crucial if they want to even be considered for a bowl game at 6-6.
Yep. All right, last two here, and then we will wrap this thing up. So David had just a couple nice words for the three of us. The first one, he really appreciates Willie's insight, which Willie, I think, is obviously an awesome member of the show. He provides insight and intel that Colin and I could never dream to have. But so it's always great having Willie on here and letting us pick your brain. And he said, great team. I assume he's talking about the three of us. I don't think he's talking about Ball State's football team. I think he's talking about us being a great team, which, David, we
For
appreciate
sure.
you always watching and listening. So let me go over the schedule kind of for this week, and we'll wrap things up for everybody. So tomorrow night, Ball State men's basketball is going to be kicking off their season, if you will, with the exhibition game against Purdue Fort Wayne. Trey Moses and I sat down and we gave a season preview that I'm going to release tomorrow morning. So anyone out there who is a Ball State basketball fan as well, be sure to check that out in the morning. Watch the game on tomorrow night, and you'll kind of have an idea of what to expect going into it before we get into more basketball talk next week. Wednesday, we're going to have a live show like always. It's not really going to be an episode preview since we don't play this weekend. So we have some stuff cooking. We'll tune in and you'll like what you see for sure. And then I believe next Sunday night, this show you're watching right now, next Sunday night, we're going to do the Kent State preview episode. So we're going to push stuff out since we play not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. So that's kind of where we're at with the schedule for this week. Boys, before we sign off, do you guys have anything else you would like to say?
No, just
No,
these next 10 days, man. Just really focus, man. Really just look at yourself in the mirror. A lot of self scout. You know what I'm saying? And I just really hope that we never see this performance again, bro. Because it's like that's not the Ball State that we talk about. That's not the Ball State we expect to see each week. And just to have the pride, man. Have some pride about your work. Have some pride about what the hell you're doing out there because it's not easy. It's not easy to prepare for these games. It's not easy to play 12 games in the season. It's like, these things, like, they come and go so quick. And I think sometimes we could take it for granted. But, like, these guys, like the seniors, like, these are the last 4 games. Nothing's guaranteed after 4. So really just want these guys, if they're listening to this pod, man, take these next 10 days to get better, man, and never put that performance out there again because they are way better than that, dog. Way better than that. And they should have the pride to even think like that. Because I did. Shit, I put on that Ball State uniform too. Like you can't convince me that Ball State can't win out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like you gotta have some pride about your shit, man, and put those big boy pants on and just come on with it, man, because they can do it. They can do it, but what they're putting out there on tape, it's hard for any of us to believe, that MAC championship is even in the conversation right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's hard to think that when with what we've seen, but I think if these guys get their mind right and the coaching staff prepares their ass off and schemes some shit up, like put these guys in position to be great. So when they execute, they look great doing it, right? So just want to see that consistency, man, and appreciate everybody locking into the pod tonight. It's a tough night. It's always tough talking about losses, right? But I think we do a decent job, pointing out the things that we need to point out, but continuing to build these guys up because we love Ball State, we love Ball State football, And we only want to see these guys do great things and win MAC championships and all that good stuff. So appreciate everybody on the pod tonight, and appreciate you guys too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, there's 170 something, 180 something people watching us on Twitter, 200 something people total with, YouTube, Facebook, all that. My thing is, guys, if you like what you saw today, if you like the chemistry that me, John, Willie have, if you like watching us break down what happened, preview games, do us a favor, go over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We're at 275. We're trying to get to 300. To show us some love, basically. Like, we're gonna keep doing this, and if you tune in and you like what you see, we're the biggest Mac podcast doing it. The Minuteman Command, like, shout out them. They got like Renee and Gloglia or whatnot. He's on ESPN calling games. He's an All-American for UMass. They got like 94 subscribers. Bobcat Corner has like 100 something. There's nobody in the MAC that's doing it like us. Let us keep doing it for you. Give us that motivation to do it by making sure you go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and stay locked in with us.
That's facts.
That's perfectly said. That's basically all I was going to say too. So I'll leave it at that. So we appreciate you guys all joining us tonight. Again, we'll be back live on Wednesday night as always. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday night at 8:30. So until then, chirp, chirp, and go Cardinals.
Chirp, chirp.